I'm Dominique Schamberger, and I am the co-chair of Build Our Economic Wealth Initiative. And today we're just going to be discussing some topics surrounding financial literacy. We are preparing to launch podcasts that are going to answer all your questions about all things financial. This is going to be a roundtable that just pretty much introduces you to the Build Our Economic Wealth Pearls for Financial Success. Why do you feel like financial literacy is so important?
I feel that the topics that we're discussing is important is because for number one, for education, we need to educate our youth, those who are coming behind us, so that they can have a sound financial foundation and give them the tools early on so that they can be more financially ready for what's about to come. And also, some things that we were taught are not being taught now. For
Mhm.
instance, like writing out a check,
Uh,
um, starting your own account. How soon should you do that? How soon should you start being aware of your financial state and start making sure that your credit rating does not get tainted in any form or fashion by your negligent actions. So the sooner we teach those things, I think will be better.
Absolutely. I could not agree more because I know when I was in college many, many years ago, as soon as the freshmen arrived on campus, so did those credit card companies. They were there and they were waiting like vultures ready to attack. And if we don't equip them with the right information before, oftentimes by the time they've graduated college, they've already done damage. So I agree completely that starting early is not only advised, I think is absolutely necessary. With that topic, what are some things that you might have wished that you would have known when you were younger? Or if you could have a conversation with your younger self and kind of prepare yourself to be set up financially, what are some key tidbits that you think you would tell yourself? And anyone can answer.
Oh, I think for me, it would be you need to be more financially literate. I was one of those that got the credit card in college and did the damage. And had I known earlier what that meant, because I didn't even know what a credit score was, much less how important it was. Um, and I think I would tell my younger self, hey, get your parents to tell you about their financial struggles and what they went through. And I think that's another reason why it's so important that we're doing this because not only for our younger generation, but to help those mid-age 30s and 30 to 50 to correct some things and get them started. Um, I remember my husband started doing some investing when he years ago with the state, and I wouldn't do it. And now I so wish I had. I waited late to start. So if we can even get young adults, not just the youth, but young adults to go, hey, especially in the economic climate that we're in, I got to take care of me and mine. I got to
Absolutely.
make sure we're okay. So I
Right.
think for me, it would be start the conversation at home.
Absolutely. You brought up several very pertinent points. One of those things being doing it for future generations. I think oftentimes the conversation surrounding generational wealth is not had within our communities.
Hmm.
Um, it's a common topic in other communities, but I think we sometimes miss out on that conversation,
Hmm.
and that hinders us. We are often starting from behind. And
Yes.
if we can be that generation that kind of changes that for our children and their children, I think that's going to have a great impact in the future. The other thing you mentioned was investing in your own retirement and doing your own investments. That's so important because we know that with our current political climate, some of the things that our parents had as securities, we may not have access to.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that our community has depended on that may not be there anymore. So it is very important that we're setting ourselves up to be not only financially sustained, but self-sustained. for
Exactly.
the long run. So
Yes,
I
yes.
absolutely think those are great topics that we would love to discuss in these series.
I think credit scores, the importance of credit scores and monitoring your credit scores, and fraud. Be aware of fraudulent activities.
Absolutely. That's so true. So many times, many of us don't actually regularly check our credit score or credit report, and we don't have a clue what's on there.
Mm.
And with fraud being as high as it is now, it's so important to just have a regular eye on that and know what to look for as well. I think the other thing with that ties into with the younger people knowing what affects your credit score, knowing that too many inquiries could actually lower your credit score, or knowing that not having established credit at all is also going to be looked at negatively. So though there are a lot of areas that tie into that I think we could benefit from exploring further. Absolutely.
It all starts with conversation. And
Mhm.
if we do nothing else, if we can get our people to understand it's okay to talk about money, that it
Yes.
really is a must to talk about money. I think we would have done a great service for our young people and I told you we're doing some investing. Well, we've started a family investment club. Well, in talking about this, we found out that my mom had done some investing and was doing really well until she had to pull her money out. Had no idea. It floored all of us because we don't talk money. But I wish she had talked about that because we may have started earlier and been in a better place. So I think truly, if we can get folks to just talk about money in their families, it
I
would be a
agree.
great service.
I agree. I think we got to shift the focus. It's been something that we've allowed to be taboo,
Yeah,
and it should. That knowledge needs to be passed along. And you might have one person that knows some strategies or has tried some things. And I think it's important to not only discuss what has worked well, but let's discuss some of the pitfalls. Let's
exactly.
discuss some of the things that we tried and maybe it didn't have the best yield, or some mistakes we may have made. Within our committee, one of the focus is supporting women entrepreneurs, and there are several women or men entrepreneurs the same that have tried things within their business that didn't pan out. And I think having those conversations, being open and honest about that can help someone else who is coming along, avoid those mistakes. So I definitely agree that just being able to have an open, honest conversation can go a long way. One of the other things that I think is important to talk about within our group, we know investing is important, saving is important, paying attention to your credit, knowing your credit score. The other thing that a lot of people see as a route to financial freedom is home ownership. So I think home ownership is another topic that we will explore the benefits of our buying versus renting, when to know that you're ready to buy versus renting, because although it's beneficial, everyone's not at that point all the time. So you want to make sure that you're prepared and not taking on more than you can chew. So those are some tips that we can share with the public and our community to kind of let you know when you're ready.
I think that we should also touch on not just about this life, but what about placing ourselves in a financial situation so that our loved ones, like when we become deceased, burial policies,
Mhm.
pre-planning, purchasing. For like me, I purchased my niche and all of that already. Now I'm
Mhm.
working on my burial. So those things my family won't have to worry about when something happens to me, and it won't put them in a financial strain. And
Absolutely.
yes.
I agree completely. Those pre-planning out, pre-needs, I think is what they refer to it as. That 100% can make the difference. Oftentimes, if someone unexpectedly passes away, it can really place a burden on the remaining family. And we don't want to be that. Nobody wants to leave your family burdened. So I think discussing those pre-needs and how you go about preparing those, definitely a great idea as well. Thank you so much for that.
One of the things that I thought about as you all were talking is every Sunday our pastor talks about the importance of having life insurance, so you don't leave your family with those unexpected bills. And he's, will talk and say that, hey, we're not going to sell chicken boxes or fish sandwiches or whatever, because life insurance is cheap. And so you
Right.
can buy enough so that your family can put you away nicely, and you won't be embarrassing the family by them having to ask people to help. Let's do a GoFundMe or what have you. So we got a plan to die just like we plan to live. And so I think that's
Exactly.
the important thing to think
Absolutely.
about.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Right.
And
Good.
along
That's
with that,
good.
we need to do wills and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference in the two and the advantages of both, because it's nothing sadder than to see something you worked for your whole life and it ends up going to the state, or your family's fighting over and it stays in court forever and nobody gets anything out of it. So one of the things, and I know again, it's one of these things that's been taboo in our community that should not be, because it's reality. So we really need to get our people to understand that if nothing else, at least do a will so that you won't have that infighting, and make sure that your people all know that there's a will and that you need to let people know what's in the will.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because
I
just
agree.
having a will, that people contest wills all the time. Mama didn't say that. Mama wanted me to have, but Mama put it in writing. So
Right.
that's one way to help cut down on that, um, things that divide our families. And money is
Absolutely.
one of those.
Exactly. And like you said, you work too hard for your assets to end up sitting in probate.
Exactly.
We definitely want to make sure that that is one of the areas that we focus on. And like you said, people like to talk about things that make them happy, and sometimes planning for the end is not a happy subject. However, like we said, it's inevitable. We all know that we're going to need it. You don't know when you're going to need it, but you know you're going to need that. So it makes sense to go ahead and put it into place.
Exactly.
With the wills and trust, one other
Mhm.
thing that with me being in HR, I find a lot of times I train and teach on all the benefits for the state employees. And what I stress to them is make sure that your beneficiaries are updated. All of your documents, your paid on deposits with the banks, make sure you have all those documents in order. Like, because for instance, one good friend of mine got a divorce. And when he divorced, he did not change his beneficiary. Guess who got his money? His
Yes,
ex-wife,
Ex-wife. Mhm.
the ex-wife. So making sure our people understand that you have to revisit those documents, on your life insurance, your bank accounts, all those things. Because some things people just don't think about until it's too late.
So, this conversation is essentially the same that we want to do with our series of podcasts, The Pearls for Financial Success. We will have our first one rolling out soon, and that particular one would be going over all of the benefits of buying versus renting, knowing when you're ready to buy, walking through the process of securing a mortgage, looking at different things when it comes to interest rates. We all know that interest rates are something that fluctuates. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. Determining and looking at if interest rates should influence when we plan to purchase or not purchase. So I am extremely excited about all of the topics that we've discussed tonight and all that we will dive into further. And I hope that you all are just as excited, and I hope that we can share something that will be impactful to you.